Okay, good morning. My name's Chris Fenton. I'm the technical trainer for Melco. And what we're going to be going through today is the replacement of the main board. What we're going to be working on today is an EMT 16 Plus. But what we're going to do will cross over all the way down to a Maya XT, XTS, and the corresponding Bravos for those models. I brought this in as a demonstration today. So this is the main circuit board that is based off of the 31058 platform. It's a larger circuit board than what we are currently producing. This board is going to be in your Maya XT and XTS and early EMT 16s. Then we have switched over to the 34799 platform. So this is the current released main board. This is going to be in your later EMT 16, EMT 16 Pluses, and also Melco Bravos will have this snowboard, this main PCB. So what we're going to do is replace this style of board in our EMT 16 Plus. Couple things that you've got to be very aware of when you're replacing boards is all of these white connectors are very easy to damage when you're unplugging the harnesses. So when you are unplugging the harnesses, you want to make sure that you are grasping the black part of the harness, which we will show when we're on the machine, and that we are very gently unplugging the harness from the connector on the main board. Couple things you do need to do in Melco OS before you replace your main board. What we're going to do is we're going to go into Tools, Maintenance, and Calibration. Hopefully you watched me a month ago, and we did one of these on needle case calibration. So what needle case calibration is the centering of each needle position to the center line of the bobbin shaft. What we're going to do now is we are going to take that information that is stored on the current main board in the machine, and we're going to store it in the operating software so that when we do install our new main board, we can get that information back. So again, we went Tools, Maintenance, Calibration, and we're going to click on Set Table, or excuse me, Get Table, and we're going to go ahead and read the pop-up. You are about to get the color change calibration table from the machine and store it in the Melco OS. Do you wish to continue? We're going to go ahead and click OK on that. And then we get another pop-up that says machine calibration has been stored or saved. So what we have done is we've taken all of the needle case calibration information from the current main board, we've stored it in the Melco operating software so that when we install our new main board, we can get that information back to the main board. So that is all we have to do in the Melco OS. So now we're going to go to our embroidery machine, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to power the embroidery machine off. For the EMT 16 Plus, the main board is located down here and it's on a slide out tray. There is one attaching screw in the back that we need to remove. And that screw is right here in the middle. And you will use a 3mm Allen wrench to remove this button head screw. And while we're back here, we're going to go ahead and disconnect our Ethernet connection and our power cord. That's all we're going to be doing in the rear of the machine for now on the main board replacement. So what we're going to go to now is we need to remove this access cover. That is held on by 4 button head Allen screws that you would use a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench. And again, in your operator's kit for the machine, you are set a bent Allen wrench set. So,
quick question, if I could, Chris.
yes.
What reasons would we have for wanting to change the main board on the machine?
Oh gosh. Not being able to get the machine to communicate with the operating software would be one. Now again, let me preference that this is just some reasons. There could be other reasons for these causes that I'm listing that you would need to call tech support and troubleshoot first before you went to replace the main board. But loss of Ethernet communications, can't get the machine to talk to the software. XYZ tracking or timeout errors, things of that nature.
So once again, Chris, just so I can reiterate this, what you said is make sure that you check with customer service before going into this main
Correct.
board. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, they will walk you through troubleshooting steps to ensure that there is not another cause for any of those errors that I just talked about.
Great information. Thank you.
Once we have this cover removed, on the right and left side of this black tray, there are 2 4 millimeter locking bolts. Now these bolts are on sliders, so they do not need to be completely removed. They need to just be loosened up so that we can slide this black tray forward. Now, if you are working on a Maya XT, a Maya XTS, an XT Bravo, XTS Bravo, or just a Bravo in general, over this area right here, you have that big plastic base cover. That base cover is not attached to the machine by hardware. You can just lift that cover off and then you will have access to the main board. So I have these 2 locking screws that are on the right and the left side loose now. I have the button head Allen screw out of the back. That's going to allow me to slide this tray forward. Now when I'm sliding this tray forward, there are a lot of harnesses that are connected to this main board. So we want to make sure that we're pulling forward slowly and that we're sliding our hand under there and we're getting all of these harnesses free so that they are not getting snagged on anything. And now you can see that, I'll turn this a little more this way. Now you can see we have full access to our main board of the machine. Before we start unplugging and plugging, it's not a bad idea to take a picture. All of us have our cell phones now that have really good cameras in them. So you take some pictures so that you have reference points. On all of the main boards on the 31058 and the 34799 platform, all of the connection points are labeled. So as on this board here, I know it's kind of hard to see, but we've got trimmer, CC motor, selector. So everything is labeled. The harnesses on the machine are also labeled. So if you get a little confused on where something goes, there are labelings that are on the main board and also on the harnessing. So now that we have got full access to our main board, we're going to go ahead and start to disconnect our harnesses. Harnesses also have a memory So they kind of lay exactly where they need to be plugged in as well. So we're going to come across here, and you can start anywhere that you would like and work your way around. So we're going to go ahead and do these two yellow ones at the front. These colors can be yellow or black, just depends on the machine. The one on the left is your Ethernet connection. The one on the right is your user interface connection. Then we're going to come one more over to the left, and this is a working light. This other one here is a working light. This guy here that we call the rainbow cable is your XY home. And if you'll notice, I'm grabbing these harnesses way down towards the bottom, right where they plug into the white connectors on the main board.
Chris, we have a question on that.
Yes.
A question from Julie Clubb. She's asking, do we need to have a ground wrist strap when working on the board?
Yes, it should. Yeah, Julie, you should. I am breaking a lot of rules right now. But yeah, especially because we're on carpet as well. But yes, I would highly recommend a wrist ground strap.
Thank you.
And then if we keep working our way over, these are going to be our motor connectors. And again, I'd like to preference, I am grabbing way down towards the bottom of where the black harness connector plugs into the white socket on the main board. I'm not grabbing the harness itself and pulling. These are pretty small gauge wires that we're dealing with here, and it could be very easy to dislodge one of those wires out of the connector if you grab by the harnesses.
And then, Chris, I have a question just
Yes.
as a user, because I would always be apt to try this. It wouldn't be a wise idea to use a pair of pliers or needle nose to remove these, right?
If you are plastic tweezers or something of that nature would be better.
Okay.
I wouldn't be against using the pliers, but again, you've got to be very, very careful
How much pressure you
how
put on
much
it?
pressure and that you're not pinching the wires.
So it's probably best to use your fingers.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So as you can see, just while we were answering those questions, I was able to get all of the harnessing disconnected from the main board. So on the 34799 platform, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 10 attaching points on this one. On the larger circuit board, the 31058, I believe we're up about 18 attaching points. It's all due to CE regulations of how much voltage is going through the board and how many contact mounting points it needs to have. So these screws are black, and it is going to be a 3mm Allen wrench again. And now we are just going to go ahead and remove all of our attaching hardware.
It looks like we have a question. I'm not sure I know the answer to this. I'm not
Snow
sure.
mass is what he means.
Oh, not so much. Yes.
Pretty
So
close.
the question from Mike is that what they call a snowmass card?
The smaller one, yes.
Great information, thank you.
So we're referring to that as the 34799 platform.
Okay, so the Snowmass reference is 34799.
Correct.
That's what we really call it. Yeah, Mike, great question. Just a little background on that. Snowmass was the project name of that board when Melco was working on it, and that's where the name came from, in case anybody was wondering. Gee whiz, where did that name come from?
And what is Snowmass?
So, great question, Scott. A Snowmass, a lot of our projects here at Melco are actually named after 14,000-foot mountain peaks here in the Colorado Mountain Range, Rocky Mountains. So, Snowmass is a peak, 14,000 peak. So, take it away, Chris.
History 101.
Yes.
Okay, so as you can see now, our board is removed. So Mike, if possible, could we get a closer look here? So on all of these, you'll notice that on these black trays, I have additional standoffs that are not used. That is because on the early models of this machine, it came out with the 31058 platform. As you can see, the footprint for that board is almost twice the size of the footprint of the 34799.
Yeah.
So it's universal. If you are going to be changing from the 31058 platform to the 34799 platform, there is a little bracket that goes on the front right corner, and that is the only additional piece that is needed to go from this platform to this. There is a part number kit available that will give you the 34799 platform with the additional mounting bracket. I don't know it off of the top of my head, but again, if you could get a hold of technical support,
We'll get that part number and get it.
they would be able to provide that as well. So we have our circuit board removed, and we are now ready to install our new circuit board. Process, gosh, not to make it sound elementary, but it's just the reverse of what we did. So we have got our black mounting screws for the main board. So again, I'm going to put my main board in the same way that I took it out. If you remember, we had our front two yellow connectors went to right here. So that's how we would know what is classified as the front of our board. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this board positioned over the standoffs so that we can go ahead and start getting this thing attached back in. Just because I've done it, please make sure that all of your harnesses are out free, that no harnesses are underneath the board. I have put boards back in before, and then all of a sudden when I was plugging everything back in, I was short a harness, and it's because it was laying underneath of the main board. So now that we've got our board positioned over our standoffs, I'm going to go ahead and get all of my attaching hardware reinstalled. I'm not going to do it tight right now. I'm just going to get them in there loosely because I don't want to throw this circuit board into a bind. If I have got to force these screws through the circuit board into the standoffs, I could be flexing the board. There's a lot of solder connections on this board that when it gets flexed, it could compromise those solder connections. So that's why I am just putting these guys in loosely right now. Once I get them all reinstalled, Then I will go through and give them the final tightening. There is no specific torque spec or anything like that. You just want to make sure that they are tight. And if you get them all in and you have a couple
Yeah, we got a
extras.
We got a question from Julie again.
Yes.
Are the connecting harnesses labeled as well as the coordinating socket?
Yes, they are.
Awesome.
So it's not too bad. And again, you can kind of see that these harnesses are laying in the correct position to where they need to be plugged in again. But they are labeled if you get a little confused. And if you're like me, you need good lighting in your glasses so that you'll be able to read the connections. But they are labeled. So you can see now that I've got all of my mounting hardware installed. I'm just going around and giving them all just a little shot so that they are tight. And we have the board physically mounted back into the machine now. So now we just need to go through and reconnect all of our harnessing. So if you are making the transition from a 31058 to a 34799, all the harnessing is the same, the connections are the same, and they are roughly located in the same positions on the board.
Nice. By the way, the part number for that offset or that outrigger thing is a 34823.
Okay, so that's the only additional part that is needed to make the transition from this platform to this platform. I have laid them out how they mount in the machines. And we've got two large connectors right here on this main board. This one's your user interface. This one is your Ethernet connection. Those guys are right here on the smaller board. So everything they're close to the same location. So if you're making the transition, it's not that bad to do. So now that we've got our board in securely, I'm going to go ahead and go through and reconnect all of my harnesses. So when you're connecting your harnesses, again, you want to just be very gentle when you're going to plug them back in. The harnesses are indexed. And what that means is that they will only plug into the socket one way. So if it's not plugging in, don't force it, because then you have the potential of messing up the harness or breaking the socket on the main board. Either one is bad. So take your time, go slow, and just make sure that these harnesses are indexed to the correct position. Now, like I was explaining to you earlier, these harnesses have a memory. So they remember where they were and what direction they were plugged in. And if you notice when I'm plugging these back in, it's a pretty easy plug because these guys are all laying right where they're supposed to be. Also, the harnesses are all different sizes as the plugs go to the sockets. So you can't really plug the harness into the wrong spot because it'll only plug into one connector on the main board. Now, the only two that are the same are for the working lights. but it doesn't matter which socket the working lights go to.
So one's the left, one's the right.
Correct.
If you got them opposite.
If you got them opposite, it's no big deal. It's not going to cause you any problems whatsoever.
Got it, got it.
So everything is all plugged back in. Now I'm going to go through one more time and just ensure that everything is seated. It's very easy to think you've got them plugged in all the way, and you don't. Okay, so we are good with our board being connected. I am now going to slide my tray back in. Now when I'm sliding my tray back in, I'm again doing the same thing I did when I pulled it out. I'm not just slamming it back in there, because there's a quite potential that I could pinch some harnessing. So we want to make sure that everything's free, nothing's getting pinched.
And it looks like you're reaching around with your right arm and the back to...
I'm just kind of grabbing the tray and the back too and helping it back a little bit.
Okay, okay.
So our tray is now seated. So we can go to the rear of our machine and go ahead and plug in our power connection and our Ethernet cable connection.
And while you're doing that, I just want to throw out that the part number 34823 is the full replacement of the large board to the small board, all parts included.
So that would include the main board and the little bracket that comes off of this when you're facing the machine.
Yep.
Would be the front right corner.
Okay. And then just that bracket alone is part number 34807, and we posted that in the comments.
Thank you.
Yep.
So our Ethernet connections hook back up, our power cords hook back up. We are now ready to power this machine back on again. First thing you're going to want to check is it's very easy to accidentally push in the emergency stop. So twist that emergency stop button to the right just to make sure that you didn't hit it when you were in there working. Anytime I turn a machine off and turn a machine back on again, I really don't have any rhyme or reason to it, but I like to close and then reopen the operating software just so everything is a fresh startup with the machine.
Okay.
So we are now at our, if you're on the advanced side of the operating software, you are now on the gray screen. In order to do what we did at the very beginning, which was get table, you have to be on the advanced side of the software. You cannot access that from the UI side.
Okay.
So let's talk about that real quick, just to show you if you have not been on the advanced side of the software before. So if I go to Tools, I have a Restart in Melco UI. What that's going to do is take us over to the user interface side of the software, which is just scaled down version of what we run on the advanced side. But you can see, since I don't have a machine connection, I've got a question mark.
Okay.
So I need to get to the advanced side. You would do that by coming down to the bottom right and clicking on the gear. And then clicking on the gear one more time. And then this icon at the top right, which is the M with the gear and the arrow, that's going to take you over to the advanced side. So we are now back onto the advanced side with the gray screen.
Yeah, great information.
Thank you. So gray screen indicates what the question mark does on the UI side. We have not established communication between the operating software and the embroidery machine. So now we've confirmed that our emergency stop is not engaged, and we're going to go ahead and power our machine up. If you are making the transition from the 31058 platform to the to the 34799 platform, machines power up differently. It takes a little bit longer with the 34799 platform, so don't get freaked out that things aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Give it a little bit of time. So as you can hear, our needle case has just found needle number 1, which is home position. If your needle case moves off of 1, that just means that it's going to the last needle position, or the first needle position of the last design that you sewed. Correct.
Makes sense.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
correct.
So I'm just getting everything back up to the large. I'm going to go ahead and go into view, and I don't want the grid, and I don't want the
Sign origin.
origin. Okay.
Okay.
So now we have powered up, we've established communications. So I did a simulated swap, and I put the exact same circuit board back in the machine that we took out. So that's why my operating software opened up as if it should. You are going to get an error that says stored color change calibration values do not match.
And that would pop up in Melco.
That'll pop up right here on this screen right here.
Okay.
On a pop-up. So 2 reasons for that. The main board that you just put in has a different calibration table than what this machine runs on. And second is, now that we've put a new main board in the machine, we need to set the serial number of the main board.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Tools. And if we go down, there's a tab right here that says Set Machine Name and Serial Number.
Okay.
We're going to go ahead and click on that. We get a pop-up that says Cluster 1 has AMA 6B2 loaded. Would you like to close it and continue? We're just going to go ahead and say yes on that.
Okay.
And that's going to take us up into this screen right here. So this is going to allow us to name our machines and also set the serial number. You can name the machine anything that you want. It has no effect on the operation of the machine. Now the serial number does, because in the very beginning when we went and did set table, where it stores that in the operating software is based off of the serial number of the machine. So it's not going to know what to go look for until we set the serial number. On the right-hand side of the machines, there's a little tag right here, and that tag has a SN number. SN number for this machine is 404358, I believe, if my eyes didn't give me. So where it says serial number, I would go ahead and input 404358, and then I would click Set. So we're going to go ahead and click Set. We're going to click Next, and then we're going to click Finished. And the software is going to reopen. Now on the left-hand side for your machine list, you will now have your machine name.
Okay.
So whatever you named your machine, that's where it's going to be listed now. So a lot of places that I've gone, it seems that the Seven Dwarfs is a very fancy name for embroidery machines. Yeah, dogs' names are very popular as well. So now that we have set the serial number and the name of the machine, when it comes back, it's going to give us that error again.
Okay.
That's going to stay. stored color change calibration values do not match. Now's where we're going to correct that error. We're going to go into Tools, Maintenance, and Calibration again, except if you'll remember in the beginning, we clicked Get Table, which was taking the information from the machine and putting it to the software. Now we're going to do a Set Table. And what Set Table does is you are about to send the color change calibration values stored in Melco OS to the machine. Do you wish to continue? We're going to go ahead and click OK. And then we're going to click OK because it told us that our calibration values have been sent. So what we did there was, like again, hopefully you watched the one we did about a month ago, I believe, when we did needle case calibration, which was set each needle position to center line right here.
Okay.
When we do that, each needle position gets a coordinate. That coordinate is stored on the main board. When we did Get Table, we took all of those coordinates and stored it in the Melco OS. When we did Set Table, we took all of those coordinates from a Melco OS and sent them back to the main board. So now our needle case calibration is exactly where it's supposed to be. We have essentially changed nothing mechanically on the machine. The machine should operate just as it did previous to the main board replacement. So it's actually a pretty simple replacement to do. I could see how an individual could get a little freaked out when you pop the covers and you're looking at these things. They do have a lot of connectors to them. Take a picture first. Go very slow. Make sure you're grabbing the harnesses down way low where the harnesses plug into the sockets to make sure that you don't damage the harness or you don't damage the socket. And also remember that the harnesses are indexed. They'll only plug into the socket one way. So if you're having a hard time trying to plug one in, you could potentially have that harness flipped 180 and it's not indexed correctly to plug back into the main board. Either swap, you're going to do about exactly the same procedure that we just did. Again, if you're on a XT and XTS or any of the Bravo products, you don't have this tray that slides out. You have the big black base cover. That base cover just lifts off, and then you are at the UI, or the EMI cover, excuse me, and that's where you would access the main board. One other thing, the 31058 platform does require a cooling fan. So the cooling fans are already installed. If you are switching over to the 34799 platform, a cooling fan is not needed. So if you have yourself just an EMT16, not the Plus model, but I guess we should explain real quick. An EMT16 is essentially the same model as what we're looking at right here, but it has this main board. The EMT16 Plus has this main board. So if you are converting over to the 34799 platform, you don't need the cooling fan any longer. So you don't have to reinstall the cooling fan in the machine.
Is there an easy way without removing the cover to know which board you have? Like, can you press E-stop?
Actually, probably the easiest way is if you go to your operating software and go to Tools, Maintenance, and on this Information tab, if you have a 31058, you're going to have about triple the information in this tab.
Okay.
If you've got the 34799, you've got what this screen shows right here.
Okay.
Reason for that is on this main board, you have a whole boatload of chips. All of these chips are listed in the information page for the 31058. If we take a look at the 34799, you'll notice there's a lot less chips, and we have a daughter board now that controls the majority.
So more of a snack-sized chips versus
Exactly,
the
yes.
bite-sized chips
Yep.
over the other ones.
So your information page will be much, much smaller if you're running a 34799.
Okay. Also, if you want to check at the machine, you can press the e-stop,
And the lights stay on.
and the lights stay on. With the smaller board versus the big board, the lights go off. The lights I'm talking about are the lights down,
These.
that shine down onto the needle plate, and we've got them covered right
Oh
now.
yeah, I was wondering where they.
Yeah, Nate covered them up so that they wouldn't be glaring.
So if I mess up Nate's,
Yep.
you can see, and then when I engage the emergency stop, those lights stay on this machine.
Awesome.
Then if we disengage, of course that comes. If you do that on a 31058, the working lights will turn off.
Cool. All right. Let's
So-
see if we have any other questions. Let's see. We've got one. Do you have a list of tests to verify the connections are set so that you do not have problems discovered during embroidery run? So I guess the question is there something that you go through? I believe I saw you double check.
I double check my connections by just going around and making sure that everything is seated.
Yep.
If you go to do your embroidery run and you are getting a, let's say, a X tracking error right after you replace the main board, I would power the machine off. I would get access to the main board again. And remember, all of the connectors are labeled on the main boards.
Okay.
So I would look for my two X-axis connectors, which happen to be right here,
Okay.
and I would ensure that they are seated correctly. And I would also do a visual inspection of the wires going into the connector to make sure that when I was unplugging, I didn't dislodge one or something like that.
And you always power off before accessing.
Anytime I go to the main board, yes, we are powering off.
Okay, cool. Scott, any other questions?
I don't. We're good. We're in good shape.
Chris,
All right.
anything else?
No, I am good. Thank you, everyone. Again, contact customer service before you start thinking that you need a main board. The scenarios I listed earlier, yeah, it could be the main board, but there's other items that could cause those same errors to occur.
Okay.
So just don't automatically assume that it's the main board.
Yeah, so either contact your distributor if you're out of the state.
Exactly.
Or contact Melco customer service.
Yes,
They love talking to you anyway, so give us a shout.
that's what they make the big dollars for. So.
All right.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good day.